there is a need to take a look at the last couple of years worth of volume, both in Putnam and in Thompson, to identify numbers of transports, numbers of requests for service, times of the time of day, the day of the week, so we can get to a best practices staffing model to know how many ambulances need to be in the service area. And you're going to hear that term a lot. The service area would be the two towns that I refer to at this point. So what is needed? How many ambulances are needed? We'll present good, better, best, so that you can make some cost-effective decisions and understand what those decisions mean to services in the community. For those of you who don't know, a couple of years ago, I did a regional study for NECOG, and we talked about merging of ambulance services in multiple towns. And one of the things that I had said in that report was that people should be looking at who they could work with in advance of a situation like this, where there's a crisis that we need to deal with. And the reason for that is cost effectiveness, changes in reimbursement, and availability of staffing. These are issues that are national in scope. They exacerbate in small communities where there's a lot of people working across 2 or 3 departments. So when you look at a roster in a department, that name shows up on multiple departments. So it is a matter of trying to merge those together. You're also saving in costs of insurances and duplication of lots of other services, including buying and or leasing of ambulances in order to keep rolling stock fresh. So the initial process here, assuming the project moves forward, is for me to gather data from both the dispatch center and the billing service for both Putnam and Thompson. Take a look at the volume, refresh the data that we collected in 2018 for the NECOG project, and bring it up to speed to make sure that nothing has substantively changed. From that point, it's a matter of looking at what type of billing revenue can come in from the holistic large one service area, so that we would then know what we had for an operating budget from billing, to know what the potential contributions would be from the communities to bring up to the speed, to the level of what service you want in your communities. To go back to the conversation that was held a moment ago about creating a new entity, I would strongly advise you not to do that. Not to mention, not saying that down the road that may not be something you wish to do, but the cost of startup is expensive. The process by which you have to go through and show what's called need for service, necessity of service, for a new entity in the state of Connecticut will take easily 6 months. Could take longer between state hearings and what have you. And all of the agencies that might be affected by that new entity, even though it's theoretically owned by Putnam and supported by both sets of municipal leaders, all of the surrounding ambulance services have the ability to contest the need for a new service, because they say that you could contract with them. So it becomes a legal battle that you don't need when we can accomplish what it is that you desire, which is representation on a board, specifications of service levels, service expectations by contract. The other entity with that, the other part of that is, once the contract is in place, that contract can be written with a clause that says, should either town decide they wish to pull out of this, there's a notice clause, the time to react, to be able to not put somebody under the gun, and to be able to take the service area back and reassign it. A municipality cannot own a PSA or primary service area unless they also own the ambulance company. So Putnam, KB, AMR, Webster up in Massachusetts, all of those entities, even Community Fire, all of those entities were 501c3 or for-profit corporations, and are not owned or controlled by the town. They're all under service agreements, which is very common now because it moves some of the liability away from the community. Obviously, you have the liability of contracting with somebody who's competent to do the job, but the state of Connecticut is backing you up by saying that they are licensed and fully staffed, and the ambulances are inspected and all of that. So it does help with some liability reduction. And you just want to make sure that the ambulance service that you hire to do the job is appropriately indemnifying you and has the appropriate coverages and things like that. So we have I know there's a temporary operating agreement about to be in place or in place with KB for service. That can continue until such time as I've met with Putnam and their board, which is going to happen next week. And then we can move forward with the analysis of what is needed and then present options to both towns that the ambulance service feels that it can provide and sustain for you to evaluate with the appropriate budget that goes with that, for you to take a look at and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost us to have ambulance service, going forward at this level. And it is a statutory obligation. Section 7 of Connecticut statutes requires the ambulance service can be provided by the town and an owned entity. It can be provided by contract with another vendor, and very successfully have written contracts that meet the needs of both the service and the community, and our partnership agreements that get the job done. And that's what I would recommend here. It's something that can be accomplished relatively quickly if all parties are playing and reading and participating at understanding the diligence issues and understanding the timeliness issues. I think we can accomplish, or at least have a working document to look at in 30 to 40 days. I think we can do it faster. I can't guarantee that because I can't guarantee how fast data will come to me. I do have a good working knowledge of the area. I was the billing agent for years for both of the services, so I understand the nuances of the community. We sold the billing division of our company in 2017, so I do not have any vested interest in either service at this point in time. And the first thing I asked Amy when she called me, and the same thing I said to Ed, is, do you have any issue with my working on this project, trying to come up with an outcome that meets the needs of both the towns and the ambulance service, as one agent, if you will, looking at all sides, bringing forth an agreement that everybody would be happy with. And so far, everybody has said that would be fine with them. And I've done that successfully many, many times over the years. Our consulting business is almost 34 years old. So we are the second oldest EMS consulting firm in the country. So we bring a lot of experience to the table, and Connecticut specific, I am the oldest consulting firm in the country, or in the state. And as I said, I've worked with probably 60 to 65% of the municipalities and/or services in the state over the years. So hopefully we can use that experience to bring something to you guys very quickly. There are some paperwork that needs to go to the state, both on an interim basis and once a contract has been executed or about to be executed, to notify the state that this is what's going to happen. And I'll go over all of those things with you. My understanding is that after the meeting I have with the Putnam board on Tuesday, every other meeting from that point forward will have representatives from both the ambulance and both towns. And I would strongly encourage that to happen, so everybody is on the exact same page, working together as quickly as possible to solve the problem for everybody.
And Bob, if I understand correctly, this is Amy St. Ange. We need to, obviously, time is of the essence for Thompson. We're in an emergency situation, and it's costing us quite a bit every single day.
Mm-hmm.
What you're proposing to us is the best plan to get us up and running again. But in the future, just like Coventry did, if I understand correctly, Coventry had a similar situation, but the ambulance service that was in place continued to be in place while the new entity was formed. Is that an option for the future potentially, if this becomes successful and we decide to move forward with some type of a bigger merger? And who knows, maybe at some point Woodstock might join on, and then we have even a bigger service area. Is that a potential for the future? Is this a first step that could lead to something different in the future?
Yes. The answer to both questions are yes. I think the biggest issue for you is to get something longer than week by week in place that you can afford that meets everybody's criteria.
We can
And
actually get billing income,
say that again?
where we can actually have billing income as well, offsetting. Because right now we don't have the billing income.
Correct. The entity that transports, the way that what billing is set up is that the entity that owns the ambulance is the only entity allowed to bill and collect revenue. So if the town is interested in creating Thompson EMS, or if Putnam and Thompson are interested in creating two-town EMS, that's a topic for another day. At this point, the topic is to get a service agreement that is affordable in place as quickly as possible. And then from there, I think continue to evolve the relationship, and maybe look for a year-long agreement or a 2-year-long agreement. While you have those discussions about looking at data, is this working? How do we want to proceed? That's not something that's going to solve your problem and be able to be accomplished quick enough to solve your problem based on some of the economics that you and I have talked about. That is a 6-month minimum of a project to create a new entity. And then the entity is the one that does the billing and collects the revenue. The way you do it from a municipal perspective is you look at the billing revenue collected by the entity and then look to subsidize the difference between approved and agreed upon operating expenses, the revenue that comes in, and then move forward from there.
This is not what I was understanding. I thought that we were doing a merger model. So this is completely different than what I was in. I'm apprehensive.
Okay.
So we would be purchasing our ambulances. We're going to be putting a building up that would be emergency services, but we're contracting out, basically, we're contracting out with services.
Yeah,
It would be contracting Putnam to do the service.
right.
The cost benefit, and I don't know what that is because I haven't even started the analysis, much less finished it, to know where the volumes are, the revenues are, and the fact that, which entity is got the better demographics as far as, and which is using the most service at what times of day. Any entity that, if you were to create your own just for Thompson, for example, you have all the cost, all the liability, you would obviously have offset of billing revenue, and you would have control of it. Similarly, unless like you had with Community Fire. Community Fire was an independent organization providing service to the town of Thompson with a dedicated ambulance in town. KB is going to be under contract to provide a dedicated ambulance in town during the interim period to provide service. Putnam could be exactly the same thing. The difference would be where Community, you didn't have access on their board. A KB, you won't have access on their board under this potential shared agreement contract between the two towns. You would have a representation on their board. So you do have control over it, and you are providing, under the new building, you would be providing a bay where they can station that truck, which is the truck dedicated to your community. That is done literally all over the state. Cheshire being probably one of the shining examples of that, where Campion Ambulance was the provider for years and years and years. They have a building, 2-bay building in town with an ambulance and a paramedic unit that's in there. And that now is, when Campion sold to Trinity Health is now providing the service to the community with ambulances stationed in that building. And they have a contract that talks about timeliness and expenses and reporting back to the town on how the service is doing and the response times and all of that, so that the town and the taxpayers can see exactly what it is that they are getting for the dollars that they're spending to staff EMS. And I can speak to that because I wrote that contract twice over 10 years.
I think the benefit of that, like you said, there would be board representation.
And I don't want anybody getting, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves at this point. At this point, the analysis needs to be done so we know what it is that we need and we agree upon what it is that we need. And then we figure out what the best way is when we look at what revenue can come in and what the expenses would be. Then we look and say, okay, how do we want to do this? Given this amount of money, this need, what are you comfortable with? So this is not pushing any particular agenda or any particular outcome until we know what the data is so that everybody can look at it and analyze it for themselves and say, okay, it's going to cost me this much to get this level of service and this much to get that level of service. And where can we, share expenses or not share expenses? And then you have the ability to say to Putnam, let's do this. Let's do this for now, and let's talk about a different structure a year from now and continue to talk. Or no, I think we're comfortable, and Thompson's going to take a path on its own. So I'm not pushing an agenda at this point, other than we need to know what we don't know as far as needs and revenue.
So Bob, you'll come up with the options, weighing out everything.
It's going to come out. It's going to be a NECOG style. I know you're familiar with the NECOG report. The analysis, instead of being regional, it's going to be focused on the two towns. And we'll put together a revenue projection showing revenue by town, and then obviously combining that. So, and then we would know what we would have to operate, put together what I believe a budget would be to staff that properly, present it to you so you can look at it and ask all the questions you want.
So in order to move forward, we have to agree to at least commit to a third of the cost that I sent you guys today.
Right.
So the estimated cost for the Holdsworth Group to do this, he's committed approximately, or has pretty much said that 72 hours should be what it will take. It's $19,680, I believe. Putnam, Town of Putnam, their Board of Selectmen last night approved paying for a third of that analysis. Putnam EMS has agreed to pay a third, and now it falls on us to potentially pay a third.
So it's a third of 19,000.
Yeah, so 6,000, I think it was $6,630. It was up to, you figure up to 7,000 rounding it up.
Right.
We do need to.
We have to go to the Board of Finance, don't we?
Yeah.
Putnam took it, they took it out of contingency. Do we have any in contingency?
I think we still have to go to the Board of Finance for approval, because it's not, unless we took it out of the ARPA funds.
Well, the question is out of the opera funds, is that
Because we
an
have
acceptable
our
expense?
contingency. Yeah.
That's what I was.
Well, it's ambulance, it's EMS service.
Any funds that we spend out of the opera funds, we have to make sure that they're appropriate.
Of course.
But with Bob's background in EMS, it would be money well spent to get an honest opinion what direction we should be going in, whether it works out or not.
We also,
Because it's above us to make that decision.
Right, so I'm just wondering which fund, how do you want to move forward financially? Where do you want to take it from?
well, we also still have, if we wanted to move forward so that the study could get started, we could take it out of the money that was in place for the ambulance.
That's true.
And then go to the Board of Finance in a couple weeks and say, hey, this is, I believe we could say, we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
need
have it
more
in that, we
because-
have it in that line item,
Right.
technically. Left?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, there's so many left,
Okay, so we could,
about almost 30,000 right now. I make a motion that we approve paying a third of the fees for the Holdsworth Group to do the analysis for the future of our ambulance service in Homestead. And that will be taken from the current ambulance stipend that was in place, budget,
You want to say up to,
up
A
to
certain amount.
$7,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. So we are good to move forward. Bob,
Great. Now, the next step for me is meeting with Ed and his board we're meeting on the 12th, correct, Ed? Right. And then from there, it will be a matter of data requests. I will email each of the first selectmen with requests, or at least to talk to the dispatch centers to clear the way that I can get the data that I've requested. And then we'll get the information from the billing agency as far as billable calls. And then I'll build the models from there after we go forward. So I will do this as I know you're under pressure. I will do this as expeditiously as I can with the data as quickly as it comes in to give you options as soon as possible.
much appreciated.
Yep, I understand.
Can I assume that that's a public meeting
The
on the
board,
12th, the Putnam EMS meeting?
I mean, we never have anybody come to our meetings, but I'm sure we wouldn't stop you from coming in the door if you'd like to join.
Well, it's kind of we're in a different situation now, so I wouldn't mind trying to attend the meeting if I could get an invitation and find out where it is and what time it's at. Bob screws up on it.
Bob, you froze up.
Ed,
Oh, Ed,
But I just got,
Moving again.
I didn't hear. Was there a question to me? I didn't hear it.
When is
No, I
that
said,
meeting
when
on?
is it?
Where is the
When is the
meeting?
meeting on the 12th?
Ed, we're on the 12th at what time? 5:30?
yeah, we're meeting at 5:30 at the Putnam Town Hall, Room 112. And frankly, I think it's a meeting we want to make sure that our board and Bob, feel comfortable moving ahead, in pursuing things. I think at this stage, everything looks favorable, but I think we want to get our bearings.
The purpose of the meeting for me is to talk to the Putnam board to make sure that they understand what it is that they would be taking on and the changes that they would need to make to be able to take that on. And then we would go forward with the analysis to come up with best practices to staff the service and numbers of vehicles and budget and that type of thing. But I know their board has questions about an expansion of their organization, which any organization would and should. So my job is to answer their questions from their internal operations perspective. If it were to be that they were going to present a plan to take and provide service to both communities. So how that works, I'm coming to the meeting as an invited guest. I'll leave it to Ed and his board as to how the rest of that is handled.
Any other questions for Mr. Holt? Thank you so much for coming in
Yeah.
tonight. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
thank you.
Thank you both.
I appreciate the invitation. Look forward to working with all of you. Have a good night.
Thank you. So additionally, in ambulance services, as I had sent to both of you, we had presented a purchase and sale agreement that Ken Slater had drafted, presented it to Community Fire Company, who did not agree to it. I feel solidly that this is the agreement that is being offered to them based on the minutes from our previous meeting. And if they don't want to take this agreement, if they don't want to accept the terms, then we can look elsewhere for a new ambulance. That's the way I feel. This is a gift. This is good. It's more than good. It's more than acceptable. And just to recap,
I didn't print out the email that they sent back.
oh, I have it here. In the response, Community Fire Company stated, "We have reviewed the purchase and sale agreement and will not be signing as presented. Our intent is not to sell the equipment and supplies to the town. Our proposal was to relinquish the assets to the town in consideration for floor repair funding and loan payoffs. This needs to be structured with CFC being awarded American Rescue Plan funding in the total amount stated in our proposal. Also, as part of this agreement, we still need assurances that CFC will continue to be funded and insured as the other 4 departments in the town of Thompson. Please note the Lucas tool, something that I had added to the proposal, that equipment will be retained by CFC for use as part of our R1 response. In my rebuttal, in my feelings, is that we cannot, as a board, guarantee that any fire department receives funds in the future because that falls during budget season on the Board of Selectmen. Additionally, the Lucas tool, which is a compression system, would benefit the town. It would be in the best interest if it did follow the ambulance service, because it would benefit the entire town and not just the District of Community Fire Company. So I believe strongly that if this agreement isn't acceptable, that we will look at other avenues for purchasing ambulances. That's the way that's my feeling.
Yeah, Ken, I don't know what your thoughts are.
If it's what I think the Lucas tool is, that is usually with the R1 and the fire departments. Because Quinnebog has a rescue tool, I'm not sure which tool we're talking about.
Compression
You're talking about
apparatus
chest
that-
compressions? Oh, okay. Because Lucas makes a variety of products.
I believe that community is the only department that has one.
That would be correct.
in the area.
But usually that is something that we do.
Where are they
Manual
with their
CPR.
R1? Have they dropped off the paperwork?
I sent a letter in approval of their application to Judy Reynolds from OEMS. I have not heard the
So they
status.
did bring an application to you?
I have not seen the application yet.
So how does that work?
I had to present a letter stating that I was in approval of the R1 service.
Of them having
Of them
R1 service, right?
Correct.
But not of the application.
I
'cause-
have not seen the
And
application.
does the application to go to
It
OEMS?
goes directly to
Oh, it
OEMS
does,
with my
okay.
letter. And then they investigate and they make sure that the people that are listed out,
So have they received the
acceptable.
application?
not to my knowledge at this point.
So do we have a time limit on how long they have to submit it? Is there a clock ticking or anything? Because at this
I'm
point,
being watchful week to week.
but we're lacking R1 service in this area, so.
There's nothing that requires the fire department to be an R1 responder.
Too bad for this district.
Yeah, it's not fair to the district because we have 4 other stations
Right.
ready to jump in and, divide up the service.
I hope to get an update from OEMS by the end of the week. I will put a little additional pressure on if it's not in place or the application isn't submitted by the beginning of next week, because we did have an alternate plan to provide R1 service. And then community said they were going to apply for it. So now the district is still lacking an R1. So.
As for the ambulance, I got a lot of flack from people that I talked to that we were purchasing their ambulances because they felt that we'd already paid for them.
Correct, constructively,
I-
we have already.
Not a lot of flack. I heard some very constructive criticism from people that felt that we had already paid for them. That was one thing I had to say. I think I think going into a contract and saying that we will continue to support them, we can only speak for this administration. We can't speak for future. We also don't have a contract like that with the other stations, do we?
No.
We go budget for budget. So that one's a tough one.
Right. And additionally, I mean, let's face it, at this time, they have still not submitted any type of engineering plans to the building official. No work has been started at all in this dire situation that was catastrophic, which it is, but not an ounce of work has been done to date. And that's not right. Because there are funds, at least according to their bookkeeping, there are funds to at least begin something. And I don't understand. For the good of this town, something should be happening, and it's not.
My last contact with community was a couple weeks ago. And it was after, I believe, our meeting here. The building still being condemned, and I reached out to Roger Duran and put him in contact with Terry Billman. So that way, Ty and Bond, community and Terry would be on the same page as to what the building official is needing in order to,
Terry was actually in correspondence with Ty and Bond
well, that's good. So
on his
that,
own. And,
but just to make sure everybody's on the same page.
and cannot get clarification that any apparatus should be in that building. They will not sign off that any piece of equipment and any person should be in that building, and they will not do that because there should be nobody in that building right now and no piece of apparatus. And it's disheartening at this point that no step has been made. And yet, when a gift of an agreement was presented, they want to nitpick the details of it. But it's just wrong. So I would stay the course and just say, this is the agreement that's presented.
Yeah, I would too. I think I read through this. I thought it was fair. It was, the one thing I would really like to see is for the town to have the Lucas as well, because if not, we're gonna end up having to purchase one. And it's not gonna, if they don't have their R1 application and they haven't made any advancements on the construction of the building, I don't see how they're gonna move forward with having it and using it when I don't know what their plan is. Have they contacted you with any kind of?
Just requesting a letter.
So you don't know if
Which I
they've made
provided
any
the day that they
arrangements
asked.
for the winter for their vehicles or anything? Because I don't know what kind of time.
No, because time
line
is
it
ticking
takes.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as the agreement, probably get more headway if both parties sat down face to face in a room and have a good discussion over this. So
They're not
Happy to
here
do
tonight,
that.
are they?
No, they're not.
They're not
They're
in the
not.
Zoom
Nobody's in.
meeting, nothing.
No. So, no, I'm happy to arrange that.
that would probably be to see where their
But in the
reluctance is.
meantime, I think that we should be looking at other options.
Yes.
I really do.
Already on that.
Okay.
Made
Okay,
some
because
calls, have some quotes coming in.
we may not even
um,
need 3
We might,
ambulances either.
most
That's the
likely
other
we will
thing.
not need three. And at this time, we only have one place to store and one bay to store an ambulance in. So we have space for one ambulance at Thompson Hill, who I reached out to Matt this week to say, don't want to outstare, welcome. How long are we welcome at your department? He said, as long as it takes. So kudos to them. He did make a request, and I'll bring it up to both of you. The first was that KB was leaving trash. They do not have a dumpster. So I asked Steve Varga from KB Ambulance, could you please have your crew take the trash away? Because they don't have a dumpster and the trash was piling up and they were having to take it away themselves.
Yep.
Thompson Hill was. And that was just a courtesy. Just take your lunch trash away. And Steve was fine with that. He just didn't understand that they didn't have a dumpster. The second piece is that currently they keep the whole facility at around 55 degrees all winter long. So something that we're going to have to consider as a
Yeah.
town. I spoke to Chief Grauer today, or actually we've spoken a couple times on it. Ideally, they're considering, if you know that meeting space they have where we do the polls, or we used to do the polls, they're thinking of putting a door up, and they were thinking of potentially a mini split might be the most
Right.
economical because their heating system heats the entire facility. So a mini split system would probably be best and most economical. And they're just asking potentially for us to consider paying for half of that, which would be about $2,500. Something to consider. It would be the most economical, or the alternate would be that some type of rent or stipend in the future until a new public safety facility is
I-
built.
I think that makes total sense. And I know
And we don't
exactly
have to
because I
decide
worked at
tonight,
that.
just start
No,
something to
Yeah.
think about.
55 degrees for the station is more than adequate for them to do normal operations.
But not
Right,
for
but-
people that are
but-
hanging out there all night.
Right, and so blocking it off and making that one area warmer with a mini split makes total sense to me.
And would draw less energy.
Absolutely. I mean, we're still gonna have to compensate them for the electric bill or, you know,
Potentially, but Matt seemed to, well, Matt's in the meeting tonight, I think. Matt, are you there, Matt? Anything you want to share? I thought he was here. Maybe he's not. So, but potentially we want to be fair
yeah.
to that department, here's Matt.
Hey, man, I'm here. I'm sorry. I couldn't get
that's
off mute.
We were just talking about the potential for the mini split in the community or your meeting room. And I think that that makes the most sense as far as economical heating sources.
That's the best thing I could think of right now. As I said, we keep it 50, 55 degrees all winter long. We can't have people sleeping in 55-degree weather. The
We're just
alternative is keeping my,
Silly.
right, and the alternative is keeping the whole station at, at 68, 70 degrees, which is where we use oil and propane. That's going to be quite costly to do that. So, that just seemed like that was the best alternative, that we can come up with.
And would you say we have at least another meeting to sit on this and think about it?
No, definitely.
And again, thank you so much. Thank you to your
Yeah, thank
department
you.
for allowing KB to be there and providing safety to this town. It's greatly appreciated. Can't say it enough.
And that's why we're here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Any other thoughts on ambulance?
At this point, let's see if we can have a good sit down with community and meet face to face instead of going through emails. and
Yep,
that
I
way.
agree.
You always get more accomplished face to face.
All right. So moving on to agenda item 8, and Wayne Bugden is here. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to discuss a brownfield grant opportunity for 929 Riverside Drive. I asked Wayne to be here because he's sort of the expert. If you want to just come and sit close, grab a chair.
You've been up here before. Wayne.
So what we're considering is potentially, basically, if I'm correct, applying for the grant to help the developer, John Gumpert, in his plans moving forward with 929 to turn it into a beautiful apartment, event space, brewery, all those wonderful things that we've heard about for the last few years. Yeah, what can you share with the board and help us understand where we're at?
Just one quick, is this something new that just came out with or finally releasing funds?
Yes,
Yep.
well,
About 2 weeks ago.
the State Bond Commission approved, I think it was in the neighborhood of $40 million over a 2-year period, be dispersed for brownfield projects by Department of Economic and Community Development. So this announcement went out last month for, they call round 14. And this is specific for brownfield cleanup. So this is not like the town is familiar with assessment grants that you've gotten in the past for the 630, the Belden Corticelli property, and for 929 River Mill. This is specifically designated for cleanup. What the state, what the DECD has been doing recently is encouraging public-private partnerships. So if a town has a brownfield and they have a developer that's kind of waiting in the wings and has obviously a lot of cleanup and do assessment and cleanup, they'd like to see the towns sort of partner with the private entities because they're grants. The private developers can't; they're not eligible for these grants. So the eligible entities are basically municipalities or economic development agencies, or now they have brownfield land banks, which there are a few in the state. those are the eligible entities. The way it would work would be the town, and I'm working with a couple of towns, and there's a bunch of towns that are doing this right now, where private properties that are abandoned or derelict properties have a lot of issues. The towns apply for the grants on behalf, essentially in partnership with the developer, and it becomes a pass-through grant where the state disperses the money. The town administers the grant by working with the developer who hires the remediation contractors, does all of the work. The grant amounts right now are limited to no more than $2 million per application. That would be the amount that we would be seeking for this. There's well over $2 million of cleanup costs at the river mill. And it includes hazardous building materials, so asbestos and lead. Right now, I think the assessment that was done for the town a few years ago indicated just over $1 million just for the asbestos and lead costs. That doesn't have anything to do with soil and groundwater issues that might be there. Those prices obviously need to be updated, so it's probably, for current rates, it's going to be over $1 million just for that, probably 1.2 million. There's underground storage tanks, there's transformers to deal with contaminated soil and contaminated sediment. There's over $600,000 that the developer has already allocated for a portion of the cleanup. So what they'd be looking for is, a big shot in the arm to be able to do a lot of the development, a lot of the remediation. Obviously the state likes to see these kind of public-private partnerships. Especially excited about this site because of the nature of the mill, its historic significance, and the town's previous interest in the redevelopment, and the saving and the redevelopment.
And what the state has already invested in as well.
Right, the state, yeah, they see this as and we've had preliminary discussions with DECD, and they basically were, we've been waiting for this application, is basically the way that they worded it. So we think it'll be viewed very favorably. It checks all of the boxes for economic development, for its impact on the community. The town checks a lot of boxes in the sense that you've already had grants and you've administered them successfully and got a lot done. So that's a good thing. So it'll be viewed very favorably. The money that comes in, the town has the ability to use some of the funds for administrative expenses, up to 5% of the total. So that would be up to $100,000 that used for administrative expenses, and part of that can be used for paying of town staff as long as they're working on that project. It's unlikely that there would be that much administration for a project of this nature, but just so that you know that it wouldn't just all be going into the development, the town would be eligible to take some of the funds. And administrative is a fairly broad category, so the town can use that for a variety of things that would be beneficial.
Right. Okay. I did speak to Ken Slater, just bouncing it off of him and making sure this is a good direction. He said absolutely. He's seen other towns do it. So, I mean, I'm excited about the opportunity. I kind of wish in my mind that we were further along with another potential property in town, because I wonder if that would be a good fit. But we don't have a developer right now. We don't have a specific plan in place. So from what I understand, that's not really.
Yeah, the projects that are viewed favorably by the state are either ones that are owned by the municipality, but especially if you've got a developer waiting either
With
to take
plans
title.
and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In this case, this is why this will be viewed favorably. An expensive cleanup project where there isn't somebody there with at least a conceptual plan and a pathway to get access and title to the property won't be as competitive, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
And that's the way I understood it. So,
yeah,
but this is great though, because this seems very hopeful for us as far as getting some assistance with that cleanup.
yeah, it'll move it way far along
Right.
in terms of cleanup. If we were to be successful in getting the full $2 million, my guess is that that's over half of the total cost of the cleanup that would be necessary.
Mhm.
Some of the cleanup makes sense to do later in conjunction with the development itself. Because there's some soils there that will be basically be capped. But it doesn't make sense to go in and cap it when you haven't decided exactly where your parking lots are going to be and all of that sort of.
Right.
So that would be, those would be costs that would come along, that would come along later. But if the project moves along and we get more done for the buck than we expect to get, then, the DECD is amenable to allowing the money to be used for additional things. But like I said, it's a $2 million limit at this point. The application is due on the 22nd of this month.
Mhm.
We would write the majority of it, give it to the town to fill in the town's portion and to review it and make sure it's obviously your application, but we would take care of the writing of it.
Okay.
River Milk redevelopment, that is.
Right, right.
But as you know, Wayne, Brownsfield, we went above and beyond. We got the bar grant. And they were very forthcoming in continuing that. So if we can get this 2 million to do half of that cleanup, like you said, as it goes along, because they're investing more and more, the opportunities to get more grants to finish the project, more favorable because we're getting closer to the end game.
Right, and the town has yet to get a cleanup grant through the Brownfield program. You've had 3 assessment grants or 2 assessment and 1 planning grant, the bar one, all of which you over delivered on. So they consider you rock stars as far as administering these grants, getting a lot for them. They've been, like they said to us, we've been waiting for this to come along. They want to help us out. They recognize, their whole purpose of having a brownfields program is to try to, bring these properties that are upside down, give them a little injection so that something that might not be feasible comes.
This is all good news. Yeah, so.
I'm excited. So, do we need a motion to move forward with, or at least to put our stamp of approval on it, or no?
Consensus
Consent, right?
consensus is to move forward with this.
I agree.
All
Without a doubt.
Thank
It's
you
the
for
next
having me.
step in the process.
right.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Wayne, as always.
All right, so agenda item 9, appointment. I make a motion that we appoint Justin Young to the building committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of appointing Justin Young to the building committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose. Nobody opposes that. Oh, any discussion? Sorry.
You got a chance to back out.
Yeah, any discussion from Justin? Yeah, it moved forward. It's all good. Welcome to the building committee. John Rice says, welcome. He's been wanting you on. Agenda item 10, any other business? Any other business to bring before the board tonight? I have nothing either. Ken, you have nothing? All right, agenda item 11, citizen comments. Any citizen comments? Okay, we have one in the live audience right now. Please state your name and your address.
Justin Young, Fairway Drive. Yeah, I need to repeat. A couple of things, and I think it's worth noting while we stand here and while we spent a large chunk of tonight discussing ambulance service and fire department and whatnot. There are 4 fire departments in town that have managed their budgets that do have debt services in the high dollar amounts. Or I'm sorry, there are 3 that have debt services that they owe money. One of them was forced to go get a tanker recently at a very high dollar amount. Another one bought air packs in the last couple of years at a high dollar amount. And one of them is buying air packs cash from their savings at a high dollar amount. So I think it's important to recognize that these fire departments, that there are 4 fire departments in town that have done their due diligence, have stood up and have managed their budgets very well. I am proudly a member of one of those departments, and I know that we spend very conservatively and very wisely. There's a lot of debate that comes down when it comes to spending money with our fire departments or with our fire department, and we make sure that the money we spend is going to the good of the town and the good of the townspeople that we serve. So that's what I had to mention on the fire department front. One of the gentlemen in the audience had mentioned taxes earlier, and then we had the Brownfield gentleman that just came up. Thompson has to decide whether it's going to be a bedroom community or whether it's going to have some industry in it. If we're going to be a bedroom community, we have to accept the fact that we're going to have taxes and they're going to be high, and they're going to go higher. But if we're gonna go down the road of industry, which having a brewery or a venue in town to have events, I think that's great. And I think this town needs to work harder at courting some other commercial industry to come into this town and give us that revenue that we desperately need to get our fire departments, our EMS, our town services in general back into the 21st century. And I would like to see our EDC director doing and planning, doing more courting of these individuals. I'd like to see maybe even some of our elected officials, when they do show up in town, to be helping us out on some other levels, maybe helping the school with some of its special education granting from the state. Definitely don't get enough with that. Maybe coming down and helping us with some of the other legislation that this town seems to have an opinion on, but it's not really heard in Hartford. I'd like to see some of our elected officials really coming in here and stepping up to the northeast corner and showing that they care about us for a change, and not just Hartford and not just southwestern Connecticut. We're a vital corridor to the rest of the state, and I think it's important that we start to show that. So last thing is on the ambulance. There's a lot talked about it tonight. In terms of having a place to house the ambulance, thank you so much to Thompson Hill. Thank you from me and my family and my friends that live in town for doing this currently out of the graces of your heart. I work with you guys regularly, so I appreciate it. Housing the ambulance there. Putting in a building in town, regardless of whether we run our own service or whether we combine with Putnam or whatever happens in the future, a building is necessary. So we still go back to the ARPA funds, and that building needs to be built one way or another. And then in terms of the apparatus, I mean, I've had an opinion about this all along. I think the offer that was made was very generous. And I agree with Ken that a face-to-face meeting, one hopefully that can be private and public, would be beneficial to the town for us to see what is actually happening behind the scenes when it comes to this agreement and what's going on behind the scenes. So I hope that we can move forward as a town together and get past this issue. I understand that right now it's costing us a lot of money, but I think it's keeping us safe as a town and as a community. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments at this time? We have one more in the live audience. And again, if you're in the virtual audience, you can raise your hand. You can put your name in the chat box. So state your name and address one more time.
108 Fabian Road, North Rosendale. My only question, are you guys done with this community service? Are you just totally done with it? We got 4 plus community service. Are you done with it? You're closing the books on it, saying no more, we're not gonna deal with them anymore. Is that what and you're moving on, you're gonna build a new building, you're gonna buy ambulance and everything else, when we had something operational that needed, and I understand, I don't know all the ins and outs of what went on, but we had something and it all went to pot. I mean, that's negotiation. Somebody gives a little, somebody gets a little, somebody gives a little, somebody gets a little. Everybody walks away from the table not getting everything they want. I mean, they have to work together. I mean, seriously, you guys are supposed to be the ones doing the negotiation here. And if you go in there with the idea, oh, well, it's this way to highway, we're not doing a building. Well, now we're doing a building. Now we're doing ambulance. What are we doing? You guys gotta tell us, and I hope you, before you go into an agreement with Putnam or anything else, you bring it to the voters and let the voters vote on it. Because you know what? You guys gotta kind of figure out what you're doing. Spending money is not the way, people need to know what's going on, and they want to be able to say yes or say no. I mean, seriously.
Any other citizen comments? And just double check with the virtual. Not seeing anybody. We have another live audience member. State your name and address, please, sir.
Sean Brissett, Little Davis Road. Couple things. One, when it comes to that mini split system up at Thompson Hill, I know a guy. $5,000 is way too much money.
Okay.
So I can put you in touch
He
with
was
somebody that
qualified, so
yep,
that would be great. Get
I
in
know
touch with-
somebody that can, he did my own,
Okay, great.
and I didn't pay anywhere near that for a much bigger space.
Love it.
As far as how you're dealing with community, I think that you are going about it 100% correctly. Anybody that really knows the history of what went on with the EMS and why the EMS members resigned wouldn't really be questioning why that dissolved if they knew the history. And I think that Wayne is right, that negotiations, everybody gives a little and takes a little. From what I'm hearing, doesn't sound like community wants to give at all. They came back with the exact same offer when you had negotiated. So if we're going to discuss give and take, I think we should discuss it honestly. They're not giving. The other thing I wanted to just clarify a comment earlier by somebody talking about taxes for everybody. Hopefully everybody's still listening, because when it was mentioned that the school got $900,000, I kind of questioned that, being on the school board. I didn't think it was anywhere near that. So I did double check, and in fiscal 21, we got less than 100,000 increase, and in fiscal 22, we got about 130. That would be roughly 230,000 in 2 years combined, not 900 this year. So if we're going to talk about taxes, it's not embellish, especially when it comes to school. People like to, I guess I would say, embellish, but in fact, it wasn't anywhere near 900,000. So thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Floor is still open for citizen comments. Any citizen comments? Okay. Okay, still no more from the virtual audience. We do have one more from the live audience. Please state your name and address.
Kim Austin, 61 Product Town Farm Road. I would just like to reiterate that my earlier rant was not directed at any one particular person or anything. I really feel that this has become a matter of politics with the fire department and with the ambulance service. And because somebody's not on the same political party you're at, you automatically think everything they're doing is wrong. And that's not what this is about. This is about working together, coming together, knowing the facts, knowing the truth, and working together to find a solution. All of the information that you need is right there for public knowledge. You go on the Thompson website, you have everything right there to see front and center what exactly it is. We had somebody mention that there are a lot of costs to the fire departments and the EMS. All of that stuff is written out in black and white right on the town website. Please do your due diligence before you speak anything about either way. This is not a political debate. This is about how to best help the people of our town and the services that town provides.
Thank you. All right. Floor is still open. Citizen comments. All right, I see no more from the live audience, and I see no more from the virtual audience, or none from the virtual audience. So we will move on to agenda item 12, tax refunds. I make a motion that we refund Gary J. Alves $21.69, James M. and Tanya L. Clark $14.15, Keith A. Farrell $57.89, Hyundai Lease Titling Trust $57.64, Michelle L. McCasey $55.09, Robert P. Naylor $385.05, Israel Zarola, $20.16, and $175.40 for a total of $787.07 in tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these tax refunds? All in favor, say aye. Aye. You in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I didn't hear you at first. I'm sorry. Okay, that motion passes. I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 8:32 PM.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight.
I don't think I did say aye.